Welcome back. It is episode 3 of season 2 of the Sack Baseball podcast. This is our midweek recap for the first full week of the college baseball season, in addition to our preview for weekend numero 2. Eric, long time no see. I feel like it's been an eternity.
It's been a couple hours. I feel like I've talked to you when I've talked to my wife this week. It's been just
Yeah,
us two all week.
we just did our interview with Tyler Finke, center fielder for Southeastern, as Brennan. It's
SELU, not SLU.
yeah. But hey, it was SLU on the logo. Anyway, go check that out if you haven't listened to it already. Like I said, stay tuned for some more exciting stuff related to Mr. Finke and SELU, as apparently all the locals call it. We actually, for an opening weekend that was not full of that many series upsets, the midweek certainly had a fair
All
number of very interesting games.
they saved all the upsets for the midweek games.
Yeah, I feel like what we should first do, I'll just ask you, did any specific game results or matchups stand out to you from Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah, Virginia absolutely just dropping dick on Longwood. They have one of the biggest run differentials right now. And then Wake Forest just continuing to rake. And what stands out about Wake Forest and Virginia specifically is like we're seeing other teams play the same caliber teams that they're playing, but not hitting to the caliber that we think they should be hitting against them. Where Wake Forest and Virginia are just no holds bars, no mercy. How many runs can we put up against this team?
Yeah, they're
Where they got
locked in
like,
at the plate already for sure.
which I want to get into some Wake Forest talk after we recap everything.
We can definitely make sure we do that. Yeah, two interesting ones there. I think the Virginia game, they gave Longwood the Longwood for sure. Dominated like I think it was 26-2 was the final. And did you see the clip of our boy Ray Geloff getting a home run off the center fielder's glove?
Yeah, it still counts. Gets them one closer to the lead of the UVA record.
Yeah, it's one step down an embarrassment level from getting it bouncing off your noggin like Canseco style, or Canseco, sorry. But yeah, a tough look there. And then I did see in the Wake Forest, shall we say, um, Kurtz didn't get another long ball, but Adam Cecere did. So keeping track of those two big
I
old
think
sluggers
those two potentially have the ability to carry Wake Forest to keeping the home run lead all season.
for sure.
They might
No, it's
just
a
take the team into the old Sam Ellinger, carry the team.
other, before we get to what really were the big topics of the weekend, I think other individual games that stood out from the midweek. Campbell and East Carolina played a big game. I actually watched the beginning of that one. Campbell jumped all over East Carolina. I was at Campbell, I believe.
Yeah.
But then Campbell had two errors that gave EC the lead back, and they ended up walking off East Carolina despite the two errors. So that was a crazy game. Two really premier
On a
mid-major
on a
programs right there.
on a perfect hit too. Like that's exactly what you want in that situation.
Yeah,
Nice
absolutely.
line drive up the middle.
Um, my
Oh,
boys, Georgia
Vandy.
Tech. Yeah, actually, yeah. Talk about the upset losses. Vandy, they dropped a little bit of a not a little bit a big bummer to Central Arkansas. I think I saw their first program ever win over
Yeah, there's a
Vanderbilt.
first win over Vandy. And
Um,
it looks like Vandy's woes from last year just continuing. I think last year we talked about it a little bit, how we were kind of ranking Vandy because of the prestigious name and what we expect from Vanderbilt baseball. And it looks like they might be cooling down from the last decade of being the Alabama of college baseball.
Fair. I think I saw the game on Wednesday. They really bounced back, and I think the catcher had like two home runs. So they really came out swinging in a much better manner. But on the whole, I think you're right. They're not. They have yet since I can't remember the year they won it all. It was like 2017, maybe. They really haven't since then really kind of demonstrated that level of Vanderbilt baseball that you kind of associate with the program. Um, A&M lost to Lamar. That was a big upset. Stanford,
Undefeated Lamar,
yeah, 4-0, I'm pretty sure.
5-0
Um,
now.
Stanford dropped one to Cal, kind of continuing their interesting start to the season. Looked that they played a great series at Cal State Fullerton, which actually did want to shout them out real quick. They walked off Tulane, and I only thought that was interesting both because of the recent Cal State Fullerton series, but also Tulane last year was one of the mid-major programs that was garnering a lot of attention. That they beat wasn't it they beat LSU, and we kind of gave Brendan a pretty hard time about
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, and that
Um,
was right. That was before we jumped on the Evansville bandwagon.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure Tulane's head coach left, and Ethan Groff, their stand-up player from last year,
Yeah.
transferred to Ole Miss. So not a great season start to the season for Tulane. Um, Arkansas was in danger of getting taken down by Grambling State. They fended them off. Um, Georgia Tech won a great game on the road at
That
Georgia
was
Southern. That was a
that was a
great
good
game.
game.
And then a couple of individual performances. Yohani Morales had a quiet opening weekend. He's one of the star players from Miami, third baseman, Gold Spikes contender, early season contender. Kind of came out with his pants on fire, hit 2 home runs on Tuesday and another on Wednesday. And what might be a candidate for my favorite name in baseball, UCLA's John Vaughn.
No, that's his actual name.
Yeah, John Vaughn's
That's incredible.
uh, homered twice for UCLA over Pepperdine. So now, just like so Kurtz it hurts, I'm dubbing John Long Gone John. So I'm just waiting for more Long Gone John dongs.
Speaking of good names, Durangelo Sahente. This is like I think this is the equivalent of a Shohei Ohtani. This is a talent that we've never seen. Like there's Pat Venditti did it, but he wasn't dominating teams like he went out and did on Wednesday. And
Yeah,
and what's oh go ahead.
no, I think probably it was the most talked about thing from college sports or college baseball specifically from the week because I heard it talked about on multiple, podcasts that don't cover college baseball.
Yeah. And what's crazy is he's a natural lefty. He grew up throwing left-handed his whole life, but he throws 4 miles an hour faster with his right hand than he does his left hand, which is just nuts. Which brings up an interesting question that I saw on Twitter. If you have a guy that can switch pitch, do you keep two different pitch counts?
I saw that.
Because
Why did you
it's
see that
it's it's
specific
it's
one?
here that hurts your shoulder. This with the other shoulder doesn't do anything, and your lower body can throw 200 pitches. It's like if he throws 60 in this hand and 30 in his other hand, his left hand, is that a 90 pitch count or is it a 60-30 pitch count? You could have a guy that could go 200 pitches.
It's really fascinating. Like, I mean, imagine him just being used in the bullpen every day, but like alternating arms. Like, all right,
Yeah.
resting, coming in like as a
All
righty
right, you're
specialist
yeah, we're
today.
resting your left arm. You're gonna be a righty this week.
I think the Shohei comparison is very apt, only because while we've seen other two-way Major League Baseball players and two-way college baseball players excel, particularly at the college level, we have not seen a switch pitcher that looked as raw and filthy as Durangelo did on Wednesday, right? Like in the way that
Yeah.
Shohei has just dominated the major leagues in a way that no other two-way player has done. Yeah, this kid came out, just set the college baseball world on fire.
So say he needs Tommy John in his right arm. Does he just go
Oh my
permanent lefty till the
gosh.
off season? Like,
Now that's a question. Maybe,
because
huh.
because going through the motion with your front arm, like there's nothing that's really putting a lot of torque on the elbow. So I don't think Bryce Harper swung a bat all half a season with a torn UCL.
But it's a great point. Like it, I guess it's like which tendon ruptures first, maybe. Like,
Yeah,
although this
like is
is
he just
it's a great question. Obviously, we don't want to see this ever like happen at all. But I mean, maybe they take something from the lower half. I've never heard of that, but
yeah, no, but I wonder if we'll see it more now because like if that's a thing where it's like, oh yeah, I can throw from both sides. So now if my right arm blows out, I just throw left-handed until the off season.
well, in the same way that like we don't see the average major leaguer just decide to become a two-way like phenomenon that Shohei is. Like, I don't think we're going to see people just decide to become like decide to throw 96 and 92 from both sides. Like
Yeah.
that's still God given to
Yeah,
some extent. But
the
I
only thing I
think
can
you're
think of
fair.
is Ozzy Albies learned to be a switch hitter once he got to the minors. He was a straight
Sure.
right-handed bat, and then they said, "Hey, you're going to be a switch hitter now." Why?
But
I have
like,
no idea.
I feel like the level of awkwardness, I heard this on the Chris Rose rotation, like the level of awkwardness in picking up a bat, even as a pitcher, and swinging from my natural left side and then taking the bat and swinging from the right side, like I feel awkward, but not nearly as awkward when you try to throw like a baseball or a football with your non-dominant hand. You just look like
Yeah,
you never picked up a ball before.
I can throw with my I can do everything right-handed. I don't think I could eat my food left-handed. I don't think I'm coordinated enough with it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I saw he's from Aruba, I think. So just absolutely wild stuff. It'll be very interesting to see. And it was kind of funny because Mississippi State, the team Durangelo plays for, or pitches for, they lost on Tuesday to Louisiana Monroe, and then they just came out and obliterated them on Wednesday. Like they used Durangelo to just carve them up. And then, did you see the home run from Dakota Jordan, who
The
he hit
absolute moonshot
474 just
off the scoreboard.
like it was there are plenty of no doubters, but like he knew immediately, just dropped the bat and like what a violent swing.
Which one's more impressive, hitting it that high on the scoreboard in Mississippi State, or Parker Nolan being like, what is it, the 17th player to go over the, what is it? It's got to be like what, 25, 30 feet, dead center batter's eye.
Yeah, that it's tough because hitting the scoreboard always gives me like the natural vibes, like you want to see like a bulb explode and like sparks
Like
fly
Ethan
everywhere.
Groff did last year.
Yeah, or like you put some lights out. Um, but like having a ball disappear over like a wall like that that's in dead center is also very very
Yeah,
impressive. Yeah,
because
that's
that had to get
yeah,
up and far to get over that wall.
exactly. Um, so other kind of the biggest topics from the week. We certainly hit on the first one. Second one, Oklahoma State. They threw a combined no hitter against California Baptist.
Five
Um,
pitchers.
what's your thoughts on the combined no no? Does it do it for you?
No, I mean, I think it's cool. It's a cool team accomplishment, but it's like I would, if I was a pitcher, I would want to go around going, "Oh yeah, I was 1/5 of a no hitter." Like, if I'm throwing a
What
no hitter, I want it to be my no hitter.
what would you rather see in person? A three pitcher combined no no, 9 innings, or remember when Mad Bum threw like a 7 inning no no and they just gave him like a notable achievement basically
Oh, in the what? Yeah, when they
in
did the double
COVID
header.
season or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go the Mad Bum because it's still, the game was only 7 innings, so he threw the complete game. It just wasn't a traditional complete game.
Yeah, I agree, right? Like the level of pitch design and technological advancement that we see in the major leagues with relievers coming in and just like a no-name reliever coming in throwing 97 with a disgusting wipeout slider, right? That hasn't so much propagated all the way down to the Division One college baseball, but um, every year, right, guys are getting bigger, stronger, throwing harder, and having more technology at their disposal. So by nature, right, like hitting is getting harder every year. So I definitely agree with you. Like combined no-no for me, I love seeing the defensive gems that like preserve the no-no because you have that extra
Yeah.
level of pressure. But I think that for me, the attraction to a no-hitter or any feel like that is the concept of one individual putting a team on their back and dominating, an entire other team. So I agree with you. I'm not so combined no hitter. Good for
It's
you.
funny. It's funny you say hitting's gotten harder. I saw a stat that who was it? Codify. They're always posting random stuff on Twitter, and it was since 2000 or something like the late 90s. Total teams that had below, I think it was a 290 average. I mean, it was like zero teams up until like 2016, and then it was like multiple teams, and then it was like in double digits of teams by like 2018, and then I think there was like 13 or 14 where the whole team average combined was less than 290. So there's just been so many more outs. There's another one about strikeouts. Like strikeouts have gone drastically up, and I wonder how much of that is pitching evolving and getting better, or the Justin Turner MLB interview where he talked about launch angle and that kind of taken off.
Yeah, I would say probably a combination of both. Right. And I think we're starting to see the major league game shift a little bit the other way, where like putting a little bit more emphasis on contact hitters. But you're right that the difficulty level in making contact with the ball certainly has gotten harder, and it's not been helped by the general baseball approach of the three true outcomes, right? You either take a pitch or
Hmm.
you swing and try to hit it 450. However, I don't know if you heard, I listened to the D1 baseball podcast, and I think they mentioned that home run totals from just opening weekend were up like 150 from last year.
It was I told it out Monday morning. It was 725 home runs were hit on opening,
Yeah,
just Friday to Sunday.
which was like either 150 to 200 more than last year. So while the making contact with the ball has gotten harder. There does seem to be maybe a little bit of more reward going on in terms of a ball being possibly more juice than we've had in previous years.
And
Which, hey,
and bat technology is
oh sure, yeah,
insane. It's funny, the bats that I was using that you probably used too, like the DeMarini Vexum, the old silver ones and the black ones. The facility I coach at, they have the automatic machines like get putt putt. You see the ones that putt putt, and they have just a rack of bats just sitting out there for you to go up and use. And the same Vexum that I thought was super high tech that I had when I was 13 or 14 is now just the rack bat you can use to hit the foam balls coming out of the pitching machine.
the scrap metal.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point too. But hey,
Well,
I'm
actually,
not as
Georgia Southern uses a bat. They've used the same exact bat since like 2017, 2018. The baseball bat bros did a video on it. They've been using the same bat because I guess it's like the modern day orange stealth.
if it makes you feel like it is, then that's what's important. Um, One other interesting thing from the week, did you see LSU go down 4-0 against Southern? And then did you see what
Hmm.
the final score was?
Yeah, then they absolutely just turned it on at some point.
So they won 18-4, and Trey Morgan, the first baseman, hit for the cycle. Not only hit for the cycle, but hit for the natural cycle, like the single, double,
Double,
triple,
yeah.
ended with the home run. Um, so Mike, a lot of people, and one of the best college baseball personalities on Twitter, Stephen Schock, tweeted like he's basically said the natural cycle is the best one. Like it's awesome when people save the home run for last. And my question for you is: do you prefer the natural cycle or having the triple be the last at bat?
I think the triple be the last one because that is like a home run is the hardest one to hit. A triple's the hardest one to hustle out. Like that's got to
Yeah.
be you hit it down the left field line, you're not getting it. You hit it left center, you're not getting it. Right center, you got a shot. So really, you have not even a full third of the field to try to hit a
And
triple.
that's the funny thing is that like everybody in the stadium and their mom knows that you're a triple away from the cycle. You can only really hit it in the one spot of the ballpark, so you still
Yeah,
have to try.
you got to hit a line shot down the line that just stays fair, that tails out into into the outfield corner, and not be playing where the foul territory is 5 feet.
Or you hit like a line drive to an outfielder that is forced to try to make a diving play because of like the game situation, and then dives and misses and then rolls to the wall. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's tough. Obviously, watching someone hit a home run for the last hit for the cycle is awesome, just because if you know what's going off the bat, that's kind of like a bat flip, put your arms up in the air type celebration. But I do love like the Pete Rose style, like diving headfirst Superman into
yeah.
third base in order to like secure the cycle. So I think I'll
I
go with that
think
one too.
I think that might be my favorite one, partly because I could never do it because I was too slow. So I like
Yeah,
seeing things done that I could never do. Kind of like the Tyler Finke getting 7 stolen bases. I think I might have had seven in 13 years of playing baseball.
before I stopped hitting, um, I used to have some pop before I stopped being able to see any balls that were faster than like 70 miles an hour. But I remember, one of the best balls I ever hit. I just roped one over the center fielder's head, sprinted around, had a stand-up triple, and my coach, when I got back in the dugout, he just goes, "You looked like a drunken giraffe running the bases, man." I was like,
Yeah,
"All
I
right,
remember
okay,
there was one game I was playing, and the team I was playing for, they had all, every team sells the extra gear. Like, they give you the jersey and the jacket, and then if you want anything else, you got to buy it. Well, I really wanted those like quarter zip short sleeve warm ups, and they had like the team logo, and then they'd put
oh
my
yeah."
name on the other side. I
That
really
was
wanted it.
that was when you like really made it to varsity. You were like, "Look, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I got this pullover
And
now."
my dad said, if you hit a triple tonight, I'll buy it for you tomorrow. So I hit like three balls. I went 3 for 3 into each gap, and twice I got thrown out at third, just completely blowing my coach's stop sign at second because I was like, I want that jacket. And I was hosed by like I looked. It was worse than the Tennessee hose in the GCU
Oh,
game. It was bad. My
was it the
coach
first
was
or third out?
pissed. I don't remember that. I don't remember that detail, but to make it more dramatic, yeah, it was the third out. When
Sure.
we were down by one every time.
Of course, of course. Um, a couple other, I have one more interesting, I think, point of conversation that came up from this week. A couple other teams I did want to shout out that played well this midweek. Alabama and South Carolina are both 5-0 now going into this weekend. South Carolina, especially, they're just mashing the ball right now.
And
So
their
we'll see.
pitching looks solid because
Yeah, so
that
far,
that was their kind of question mark last year.
yeah,
They could hit with a bunch of the top 25 teams, but they couldn't pitch with any of them. So at
yeah.
least through 5 games, they look solid.
I want to shout out Tennessee catcher Charlie Taylor had two home runs and a triple. Tennessee they beat Alabama A&M 23-1, and they put up 15 runs in the fifth inning. That was a new program record for number of runs in a single inning.
Yeah, I think that's
Uh,
no. Yeah, I think on Warren Nolan they post biggest run differentials, biggest run innings, and I think 15 is top of the leaderboard right now.
yeah, so that was kind of crazy. I did see Liberty mid-major program. They finally broke into the win column against Duke. And Florida actually blew a game against USF. They hosted them in the midweek.
Oh, that was a bad game by Florida.
Yeah, I don't know. They had a 7-run lead in the ninth inning, and then obviously just didn't use their best relievers because it's a midweek and they were up by 7. So I can't, tough loss. I can't. I personally don't really fault them that much for that one.
So how much when you go through and do your personal rankings, how much do you fault the team for a midweek loss if they're like top 5, top 10 team?
Not so much. Like I'm working on my own. Like I haven't put any personal rankings out yet. I'm working on some computer ones, but at least in like the metrics I use, I think that it matters more to the mid-major programs. Like I give them a higher reward than I penalize the higher like favored team. But now, when you're talking about a team like Texas State, that's not a underdog per se, unless you're talking about like one of the top two, three teams in the nation. Texas
Yeah.
State is a bona fide like top 30 program. But if you're talking USF, right, that's like a top 50, 75 program. So um, give more credit to them for being able to come back like that. Because even the underbelly of the Florida bullpen is still you're facing better arms than some mid-major programs, Saturday night guys. So credit to them for making the comeback. But I don't fault Florida so much for conserving their arms for the weekend.
Yeah, I just kind of think that if you're if you have that single digit ranking next to your name, I think you have to come out, and I don't think you can drop. Like I feel like there's a certain ranking where you just can't drop games to teams like that. But
Well,
it's
you
it's a
can.
little personal. Well, you certainly can, but I think it. I know when I do mine, I put a little bit of emphasis on the midweek games, just because like that kind of I feel like that kind of shows the depth of your team, and the
Yeah, I'm
depth of
not
your team is what's going to carry you through, through to Omaha and possibly a run of the championship. Because if
no
you got
doubt.
midweek guys that can't come in,
I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but in the same token, as like you look at the Dodgers in the MLB from last year, right? A very deep team that won the most games in the regular season, but then were overmatched in the playoffs when you condense the season down to a three-game series. I think you have a little bit of that going on where you can be an Omaha-bound team if you have an elite top three starting rotation. However, you're right that depth is only a plus, especially when you get down to the end of the year. People are getting sore, tired, injuries pile up. So you're right.
yeah.
You're right. One thing, speaking of injuries, did you see the news out of Ole Miss this weekend? This week,
One of
their
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 pitchers, right?
yeah, their Friday night guy Hunter Elliott. He was big in the College World Series last year. Like big, tall pitcher, pumped like I think 95 plus. Um, Out for now with forearm tightness. So a lot of people on Twitter, well, a lot of people specifically, I saw Kendall Rogers put out a tweet saying that it was time for the NCAA to allow a pseudo spring training ramp up style period prior to full team practices beginning in the spring. So my question for you, I guess it's not a question. I just I feel like this is on the programs, right? Like you should know what your players' limits are and trust them. And if you're coming down with injuries like this, what are you trying to throw too hard too quickly? I mean, it's opening weekend, right? Like you don't need to be blowing hundos.
Yeah. I think some of it is the program, but I also think some of it is the lack of time before the season starts. Because like during the summer, kids go home, they're not in class, they're taking they might take the summer off, take not do as much intense baseball workout, and then
I don't know
I
if
think
that's
as a
true for like premier D1 players though, right? Like they're going to Cape Cod leagues, they're going to.
oh, yeah, they're
I
doing
I will
those.
tell you, when I was at Georgia Tech, I wasn't even like didn't have me a spot on the team, but like in January and February, the coaches were already up my ass about where are you going to play in the summer, and I hadn't even made the team yet. Like they were that anal about it.
Yeah, but so I think when the coaches don't have an actual hands-on, hands in the pot working with the players, you're not able to control their program as much. So you don't know exactly what they were doing. You're kind of just basing it off of,
That's
well, this is what the
true.
guy said he did. Here's what, the guys I know in the Cape Cod League or the guys that I know that he trained with said he did, but you're not seeing it working with them there. So I think we're like major leagues, you're working with the same trainers the entire time. If you're under contract for 8 years, you're working with the same training staff for 8 years. They know everything about you. Where in college, they don't have that time. There's time off where they're not with their respective college coaches. So I do think it is time to extend it. Maybe take the cap off to where they can't work with the college teams or the college training staff when it's not baseball season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that is how it worked. They basically, specifically like over the winter holidays, sent me home to Texas with like, here's a lifting and throwing program. And yeah, I did not follow the lifting program to the T. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, and I
Um,
guarantee you 99% of kids are, I say kids, these guys, adults,
but then again,
99% of them
I
probably
was,
aren't.
then again, I wasn't. It didn't have like a multi-million-dollar payday in my head. If I probably may have been slightly more incentivized to adhere to the program, but that's all. That is what it is. Um, any final thoughts on ball from this midweek before we kind of preview some of the premier series this weekend?
No, that kind of wraps up everything I had written down too for midweek games.
All right, give me one series or tournament or whatever that you're most looking forward to watching this weekend and why.
This weekend, probably Maryland Ole Miss.
Really?
Because I think that one, Maryland's supposed to be basically expected to be top of the Big Ten. Ole Miss is the returning champion, should be competing for number one in the SEC. So you're essentially getting what could be an Omaha matchup, second weekend of the season. And I think it's going to have a lot of implications towards the end of the season on where those teams rank. Whoever wins the series, if they both have similar records, I think you would have to take whichever team wins this weekend and give them the higher ranking if most things are equal.
Yeah, it's tough though. I think Maryland has not had a good start to the season. Like I'm pulling up their schedule. I
No,
know
I
they
think
lost.
they're 2-2.
Yeah, they are. They lost the series. They beat USF, but then they lost midweek to West Virginia. So definitely will be interesting to see them play more. Maybe again, a little bit. They're not even a northern school per se. Like their DC was relatively south, but sure, I'll give you that. I mean, Ole Miss hasn't they haven't blown anybody's doors off so far, but they are playing very well. I think they're probably undefeated so far. Um,
I also think for Maryland, this is almost a do or die series because I think this could either, if they win, it gives them a lot of momentum going into playing Big Ten conference games with the confidence of we just beat one of the top teams in the SEC, which is arguably the best baseball conference in college baseball, or they go into conference play with a losing record, questioning themselves.
True. No, no, it's a good point. I will be interested to see if Maryland plays a little bit better coming down to Mississippi. I think there's a couple of series that I'm really interested in. Obviously, LSU's playing in the Round Rock Classic. There's the rest of the teams aren't as noteworthy as LSU. The Iowa does have one really, really gifted pitcher that hopefully he gets to start against the Tigers and we get to see what that looks like. But as far as series go, UNC and ECU are playing a series. They're I think playing two in Greenville and then one in Chapel Hill.
And
So
they're what, 11-12 or
yeah, very
12 and
close.
13. They're like, I know they're right back to back. So
At least
the
in the
battle of the
D1
Carolinas
poll,
has started.
yeah. I don't think I'll be able to make it out to one of those games, unfortunately. Maybe someday we'll see. But that's a good one. UCLA is going to Vanderbilt. UCLA is on one of actually the hottest teams to start so far this year. So I'm curious to think if we were going to if we were to do a pick 'em, who do you have winning that series?
My heart says Vanderbilt. My brain says UCLA.
Which is crazy. I mean, because last year UCLA, they were about as inconsistent as it got. I think they were as good as like beating Oregon State in a series at home, and then were as bad as like losing to USC or something like that, were just dog shit last year. So yeah, I mean, I'll roll with John Vaughns, man. Vanderbilt hasn't looked overwhelmingly dominant so far. They obviously have the pedigree and the recruiting ability to win that series, but if you go off of the first 4 or 5 games of the season, UCLA has looked like a better team. So that'll be a fascinating one, especially since that one is in Tennessee. Um, Florida State's visiting TCU. Low expectations for Florida State in that series, though they have started off well. I think they're 4-0 under Link Jarrett so far, so credit to them. TCU is just right now one of the hottest teams in the country
I mean,
for
and
now.
that was a good series last year when they played
Oh,
in the
I
regular
remember that.
season.
Yes, I didn't one of the teams like dip out early or something like that. I think it might have been Florida State
Yeah,
dipped out early because they were afraid of getting swept or something. I need to look that up before I spread lies.
yeah, and then I wrote this down about the Maryland Ole Miss series. It also has big RPI implications for Maryland too, because right now Ole Miss took New Mexico's spot as the number one ranked team in RPI.
You said Ole Miss did.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So if Maryland beats the number one RPI ranked team, they're going to get a lot of love in those RPI metrics.
Let's see. Yeah. Or no, it's TCU dipped out of the series early. Florida State won the
I
Friday
think
and
they
the
split it,
Saturday
right?
game. No, they won Friday and Saturday, and then TCU pieced out and didn't want to catch that Sunday hell for the sweep. So that is an interesting one. Florida State coming to TCU to see what happens with that one. Um, Oregon, they came off a four-game sweep of Xavier. They're going in to visit UC Santa Barbara, which was a top 25 fringe team last year. Um, Washington State and UC Irvine. Those are two teams that don't get a lot of notoriety. They're both 4-0, at least when I checked earlier today. So I don't know if they're playing today, but great starts to the season for both of those clubs. I love me some UC Irvine. Um,
The A and Eaters.
yeah, and years, baby. That was
The only
actually my
reason
adopt.
I Oh, go ahead.
The only reason I know that I kind of adopted them the first time I went to the College World Series. I was there at the game, the record like 15 or 16 inning game that was
Hmm.
for a while the longest game in College World Series history.
Yeah, I used to. Me and a bunch of my buddies used to do a March Madness bracket, and I saw that there was a team called the Anteaters, and I was like, they have to win. I
They'll
always
win the
just
whole
go with
thing.
the I always just go with the battle of the mascots. Who's got the cooler mascot of this team? I'm gonna pick. Never works
Interesting
out,
strategy.
but never works out.
Here's an interesting one. Actually, a couple interesting ones. Arizona State is coming to Mississippi State. Mississippi State, horrible year last year in their title defense season. Um, has not come out of the gates looking especially good until yesterday when they beat the ever living shit out of UL Monroe, obviously, and kind of generated a lot of headlines with the switch pitcher. So I will be interested because I think Arizona State has gotten a team full of transfers. So we'll be interested to see how that one goes. Arizona State also
Um,
not coming off a great season,
I'm curious to see how long it takes Durangelo to work into the weekend rotation.
or at least the bullpen. Like right, like you can throw
Yeah,
every
because
day, just alternate arms.
he definitely didn't have what looked like a midweek starter type stuff. He looks like he has Saturday, Sunday, or out of the bullpen
Dude,
stuff.
he's got Friday night swag. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
um,
like
I just, Actually, I was thinking this earlier watching the clips. I was like, I just love that the delivery is so smooth that the hat that is resting on like the big hairdo doesn't move. Like, love that.
that. Did you see the one where they overlaid his right and left-handed deliveries?
Yeah, it's identical.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Last one that really intrigues me. A couple other token ones. USC is going to Auburn and Michigan is going over to Cal State Fullerton. But the last one that's really interesting to me is West Virginia. They're going to play a series at Arizona. Arizona is always a team that kind of, for some reason or another, maybe they're just not as flashy as Arizona State or Grand Canyon, but they always kind of fall under the radar a little bit. They're always a very good team. Um, and then West Virginia has had a very good start to the year. They almost beat Georgia Southern in a series. And then they just, I want to say, just had a huge midweek win against, I think it was Maryland, actually.
Yes.
So we'll see. I think West Virginia has a shot to win that one. Long road trip for those guys. I'm sure it wasn't a road trip, but long trip. Arizona's a great club, but I think the way West Virginia is playing, they could have a chance in that series.
They could be having a happy trip down the country roads back home.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything? I know I asked you about what you're going to watch this weekend, but anything else?
So here's an interesting question I got for you. So we're 6 games for some teams into the season. We've seen Wake Forest play 5 games. We've seen LSU play 6 games. Which team is the number one team in the country?
Right now,
Well, like LSU has the ranking, but
yeah, I mean, if you put the two of them in a series, I do think that LSU would win, so I would give them the number one. Um, and I think that's a fair. Not that LSU has played any, superior competition, but the pitching that Wake Forest has seen that they've just obliterated, right, hasn't been that high quality. So, you know, give me Paul Skeens for 6 innings against Wake Forest. I think he'd do pretty well. Granted, Wake Forest pitching staff is just as formidable, so that'd be a great series. Right now, it just feels like the Tigers are the number one team until something happens. Like I think even if both teams were to start like 15-0 and Wake Forest had double the run differential, I feel like a lot of people would still keep LSU at number one just because they hadn't done anything to lose that spot, if that makes sense. I
yeah.
don't know if
So
that's a
basically,
valid way of thinking. I don't know if that's fair or
that
not, but
makes sense. Like 2 through 25, you can kind of move around, but if you're the number one ranked team and you don't lose, you really
I
can't be
mean,
knocked off that.
there are ways to win less impressively. Like you can, like LSU, for example, they went down 4-0. Um, Everybody was not freaking out, but like there were clips going around like LSU's down 4-0 in a midweek. And then they stormed back and put up 18 runs. So like that's a convincing way to like quiet down a midweek game. Um, so that's not to say there's no way for Wake Forest to leapfrog them, but for
It'd be very
now, it
tough.
just seems like that's their spot to lose for now. Speaking of our report on Tommy White, that turned out to be 100% factual. Saw
Oh
him
yeah,
taking some live BP
he's
rounds.
Gucci,
He's the Gucciest.
as Brennan said.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of Brendan, who do you think is the other SAC acquaintance that's going to be the first to rejoin the two of us since we've been shouldering the load here?
Pro- Probably TJ.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Sue just might hop in at some point. I feel like the first time that we're gonna see Brennan is LSU. We're all gonna kind of formally decide that LSU might drop a midweek or might drop a series, and then they're gonna just blow a team out that we said might have a chance to beat him. He's gonna come on, pretend like he's gonna do the whole episode. We're gonna do the intro, and he's gonna go, "Screw you guys, LSU won." Say some dumb shit, and then just be like, "All right, I'm out." I
Good
feel like
tag
that's the
us.
first time we're gonna see Brennan.
Probably. That's a fair, probably pretty accurate description right there. Well, hey, great weekend of baseball coming up. 1 week closer to, seeing how the regular season continues to develop. I think Wake Forest definitely like they can go all the way this year. So can LSU, so can a lot of other teams. It'll be awesome to see what happens this weekend. I will catch you on Monday night, probably.
Monday night recapping, hopefully some
Yeah.
upsets. I like when upsets happen. We need some mayhem ranking movement.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. You guys have a great weekend to watching some college baseball, and we'll catch you guys on Tuesday morning. Is probably when the episode will be out. Um, be on the lookout for another very interesting interview coming very soon, hopefully. All right. Peace out.